Hi, everybody. This is Vault Vibes Unlocked and Unscripted. You are with Julie and Nick.
And
And
course,
we're
Sean
here
Lafferty.
with Sean Lafferty today. You didn't even introduce yourself, Sean.
No, that's okay.
So we definitely have the most professional voice we've had so far on the show. We thought so. Julie's son Jax started working with the station a few months ago or whatever, and obviously, you know, he really has a lot of respect for you, and you're a voice and a face that we're all very familiar with in the Erie area.
Yeah.
You know,
36 years old.
30, we were just talking about that.
Jackson
36 years.
Jackson was like, "Oh my gosh, you're Facebook friends with Sean Lafferty. Why? Like, why?" I said, "Oh, that's before you even worked."
He's just not picky.
That's way
He's
before.
just not picky about friends. No, right?
This is what I get, Sean. This is what I get. So you've been doing this for how long?
36 years at JET. A smattering of time at SEE when they were still separate. By smattering, I mean like 6 months. Before that, it was about a year in Ashtabula Radio. Before that, it was about 9 months or so behind the scenes, camera and editing at a TV station that no longer exists in Akron, Ohio.
So you basically have been doing this since you were 2.
Yeah, but right. It's pretty much what I wanted to do. I did not have much of an adventure as far as like changing majors or maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. By the time I got about halfway through high school,
so you're a pretty one-track mind going into this.
That's pretty much all. There's not a lot of room up there for more than one track.
You're like, I just want to read what the thing says, and
absolutely. At a 5th grade level, just give me the words right in front of me.
Is that what they try to do?
I think it's actually
5th grade.
I think it's actually they tell you 7th or 8th.
7th or 8th. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say
6th grade. Let's see if he. No.
Well, you don't want to do the. I mean. You don't want it to be the script spelling bee.
No.
Right. I mean, well, you don't want to stumble words like, whatever. And,
and there's nothing worse than when you see people trying to use words that they don't know the meaning
That's
for.
Correct.
Right.
That's
correct. Not in the proper context. And there's really nothing worse when you don't even know if it's in the proper context anymore.
Right.
Okay.
And
now
you're just like,
we're way out of my depth.
Yes, this has become so twice and 3 times removed from when I learned the word. Yes. Like it's become a total different.
Have
you had writers over the years that you're like, oh, they're using too complicated of words? Have you ever run into that where it just seemed like they were just trying to be fancy or whatever? Almost.
I mean, you have that, and I think we all get over it. I mean, like I did the same thing when I came out of college, and I think a lot of the kids, especially when they come out of college, I mean, they're trying their best, and they're still learning their craft. And really, writing, you never stop learning it.
No,
right.
I mean, I still look at the stuff that I write and say, that could have been better. That really didn't hit
well,
the
there's
mark.
A common theme here, Sean, is that people realize that there's still room to grow. There's still room, and no matter what you're doing, what your job is, what you're trying to accomplish, there's always going to be room to grow. And I love that you say that it's a craft. That's amazing. This is what you do is it's an art form.
And you try and you try to. I mean, some days you do better. Like every other thing on earth, some days you do better than other days.
Yes.
And Craig Smiley, remember him doing sports?
Yes, I sure do.
Craig Smiley used to have a phrase that he used all the time. I'll try better tomorrow.
I love it.
I'll try harder tomorrow.
Yeah,
and it was, hey, it was live. We goofed it up. We'll try harder tomorrow.
I remember that. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And are you guys? So when you record, you're live, right? I mean, there's no delay or anything like that. Right?
There's no delay, and we don't record shows. Yeah. That's become a thing in even major markets.
Sure,
is to record some shows, especially the
you're doing like multiple spots shows. Or something like that.
Yeah,
you do this all day, every day. You do an amazing job. What made you ever want to do a podcast with us? I'm just curious.
You wanted to see how the amateurs do.
You asked.
We're in a vault. I mean,
actually, it's unscripted. I know diddly about podcasts.
Interesting.
We listen to them every now and then. My wife and I will listen to them in the car every now and then.
Yep.
But I don't know really anything about what goes into it, except that there's more that goes into it than meets the ear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're finding as we go. We're learning as we go.
We've built up, we started with less equipment and we've built up the equipment. We have all the, and we started with one little microphone and no headphones and all this stuff.
And these are fancy. These are nice.
Yeah.
They're very nice.
Amazon Prime Day. That was a good special.
Not a bad plan. Not a bad plan.
No.
Yeah. But
with this stuff, though, you got to make sure that you're watching the porch when it shows up.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to be watching this one. You're going to be an expert at podcasts
absolutely.
now.
Yeah.
Now I have a question for you.
Too
that's a great one. That's
nice
a splitter.
Expensive one, right?
That's
so that we can do all the voices together and everything. So
nice.
It brings them all in.
So I have a question for you. Of all of the years you've been doing this and all of the stories you've done, you've probably got a top 5 list of favorites that were just feel good, getting a message across, good stuff. What is there one that you can think of that you'd like to share?
There was. I mean, I love sports, so I love the opportunities. Like I love the fact that the Seawolves are playing for a championship.
Yeah.
I love when the Otters are doing well, because when we've been able to do stories about different championship runs, it's just so feel good. It makes everyone, and there have been some really,
it's exciting.
I think back
brings people together.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And especially right now as we go 6 weeks away from election day, where maybe we're not all together.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It's still one of the forums that brings people together.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. And
any way, shape, or form you can do that right now, I am a fan.
Yeah, and rooting, you're rooting for Erie, and that's cool.
We're on the same side.
Exactly. And so I like those. I mean, I go back to 2002 when the Otters won their first championship.
Yeah.
Things were pretty rough economically. International paper had packed up, and a couple other companies had either downsized or packed up, and it was kind of a kick in the teeth time, and almost like it was on cue. The Otters make this run,
right?
And they had been a good team the year before, and it wasn't like it wasn't like the Miracle on Ice. They were a very talented team.
Right. It didn't come out of nowhere, but
a lot of good teams don't win championships, and that's interesting. And that one did, and
that is interesting.
It just felt like
that was awesome.
Very, very, very fortunate timing.
That's really good.
Now I know. I used to work for the team, so I know I met you years ago, and when I worked there in another lifetime, or whatever. But I see you at all the games and stuff like that. Now, were you a fan like before that, or is that kind of what you got you into the team?
No, I was a fan before. I probably started going to games the year before. They actually record wise, I think, had a better year the year before the championship. But I've been a hockey fan my whole life.
Okay.
My dad was a good hockey player. He was a good athlete. All of that skipped right over me. And I have nothing but a
true appreciation,
a respect, yes, an appreciation.
Because you realize how difficult it is, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Exactly.
I mean. But the other thing too, okay, so you do this day in, you do this day out, and I'm sure that it gets to be something that is a given for you. Is there ever a surprise that takes place? This is every day you go in, you do the same thing, you do it amazingly. Does anything ever surprise you?
Well, it's the beauty of it to me is that there is, yes, not every day is, hit you in the face news, right? And my goodness, we've really got to move on this kind of thing, but it can always happen. You're always on the edge of something happening. Unfortunately, it's when that talking about that, it's not going to be somebody's best day out there.
It's not going to be smooth, right?
But we think of. It was a very, very average day on on August 28th, 2003, before the pizza bomber happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was just another day.
Yeah.
And very, very quickly it became not so.
Right.
There are so many days where there's so much happening all at once, and it's not necessarily all earth-shaking,
right.
but it all has to get done.
Right.
That I'll say to myself, and I try to calm myself by just saying, gee, I wonder how we're going to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just,
Right.
or I'll say, it's going to be interesting to see how this gets done.
Yeah.
Because there's no choice.
Right.
It has to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
But
you don't use any negative verbiage. This is amazing. I mean, so often you hear people saying, I can't do this, or I can't work under these circumstances, but yet you're here saying it'll be interesting to see how we do this.
It's exactly, and it's kind of the fun of it.
Sure.
How is this going to get done? And it may not make a story I remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But we'll remember it for today.
Were there over the years that you've done, obviously you mentioned the pizza bomber case. Are there stories that you found almost too overwhelming to report on over the years? Like you were like, oh, this is going to be a really hard one. Anything stick with you?
I mean, there are stories that I've never actually said I don't know how we're going to report this.
Yeah.
But 9/11.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even though it didn't happen here.
Yeah.
Obviously it just rocked the whole country at its foundation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it was a difficult day. I know there were journalists who hung it up, who said, this just isn't for me.
That was what was his Peter Jennings. He picked smoking back up, and that was ultimately what killed him. Lung cancer later in life, because he just said he couldn't take it. He was doing days after days of that reporting.
They just sat there and they were reporting, and it got to the point where they didn't care if you saw them smoking, and they didn't care if you saw them not at their best.
You were not a face reporting anymore. You were human. And
yes,
that's just, and you know what, we take for granted. We think that Erie is a small little, it feels like a small town,
sure,
but we're literally the fourth largest city, I think, in
getting
PA.
close to the fifth.
I know.
I think we're hanging on.
Here in Allentown, like what happened? I don't know.
Allentown gained 30,000 people just out of nowhere.
I think aren't we duking it out with Reading now?
Yeah,
Reading is crazy.
Reading's trying to. Yeah,
we're coming for you, Reading.
I know. What the heck? What's going on with Reading?
Right,
I know Reading has the biggest high school in the state. It's massive. It's like 5,000 students or something like that.
You know more about Reading than I do.
I don't know. Nick is a random
I have a lot of random information.
Facts,
when I can't sleep, I look up random facts.
It's trivia.
Really?
Yeah. No.
What's the biggest high school in Reading? The only high school,
Reading High. Yeah. That's what it's called.
You're just spitballing.
No, it is Reading High.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's the largest high school in Pennsylvania.
Interesting,
It's massive. It's a massive old building. It sits on top of a hill. It's
How
just
do you know
very
this?
because I don't know, because I'm an information junkie and just random things
just wait
like
a few years and you'll be going, what was that biggest high school?
Right, yeah, exactly right. I don't know.
Or in my case, what did I have for lunch?
Yeah, I mean, Nick happens to be the youngest in the vault.
We talk about Pennsylvania. We talked a little bit about you before you came in here. I thought this would be interesting to share with that. So, obviously you've been synonymous with Erie so long, but tell us a little bit. So where did you grow up and where did you lived? You lived a couple different places.
Yeah. Where I grew up is kind of an interesting story. Erie was one of the places. Where I grew up I was born in Utica. My mom and dad's families were in Utica for a long, long time. Still have some of my dad's family there. Although my dad always jokes we could have a family reunion at a card table because there aren't many of us left.
Yeah.
But
in Utica, another random fact I know when the GE plant closed in Utica, they lost a lot of population there.
No matter where he says he lives, they're going to come random,
people had bumper stickers on their car that said "Last one out, turn the lights off."
That was, is
that when you guys left, or was it maybe?
It was before that. They've had quite a resurgence.
They have now,
but they lost a lot of textile mills. They made a lot of
Wow.
like sheets, pillowcases,
Mhm.
towels, things
Really?
like that. A lot of that stuff there. They had GE. They had Sperry Rand. They had a whole bunch of really big employers that packed their bags and beat feet.
But they didn't lose everyone. And like you said, they've had a bit of a resurgence.
Yeah, they have. And they've actually, their downtown is bouncing back. And
we stopped there on our way to Cape Cod. It's on I-90.
Yes.
So I know a couple of the places and stuff like that.
That's
So I'm familiar. We stay there.
So after Utica, then where did you go?
We some spots in the southern tier, Binghamton, Norwich, the metropolis of Smithville Flats, New York. If you ever look it up, it was actually cool. It was our I guess introduction to rural living.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was kind of a fun place because as kids, you look out your back window and there's woods and there's deer walking all over the place.
Right.
It was fun. Moved to Baltimore and then Chittenango and then Syracuse and then Toronto and then Erie for a few years and then Akron. And then came back to Erie.
So what did your dad do?
What was the moving?
Helped you to move so often?
My dad, at first, he worked for, when I was born, he worked for Allegheny Airlines, who served Erie at the time too. Or he worked for Mohawk, which was I guess owned by or bought up by Allegheny, one of the two.
Right.
Okay.
Then went to work for WT Grants. Remember the old five and dime store? Grants.
Yeah.
Used to have Grants out by 12th and
we sure did.
And Pittsburgh, and then they turned it into USA Roller Skating, I think, or something like that. But and then he became a business forms designer / salesman, and we moved. He got transferred quite a bit.
So that makes you a tough guy. You have to start over.
Yeah, you have to start over a bunch of times.
And over and over. As a young adult or a male in I guess anywhere at that age, like in the 70s, maybe the 60s, 70s, trying to reestablish over and over again, that makes you a tough character. I would think.
I think you get used to
the new
it.
kid every time.
Yeah. I mean, you get used to it. Not everyone takes to you.
No,
so you move around that much. Not everyone's good. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
So you're fast. You're probably pretty fast. I'm guessing. You're
not anymore.
So
turn the sundial.
The sundial, right?
You think that's maybe a little sand timer? I guess.
Right.
A little timer.
So you think that's maybe one of the reasons why you've decided to stay put, like as long as you have?
It's funny just I think it had something. Yeah. I really do. And we had the fact that we really loved living in Erie when I was a kid. We lived, if you out by the airport in the Lakewood neighborhood.
Yeah.
We lived there, and there were so many kids. The school was still there. And it was just like the perfect neighborhood to grow up in, and we loved it. And
is that what brought you back?
Yeah, those good memories.
I think it was the good memories. My sisters were, were jealous at the time that I got to come back to Erie.
Right.
They were.
That's a nice shout out for Erie.
Yeah, they were jealous of that, and they still to this day they enjoy coming back to visit. My mom moved back to Erie from bouncing around. She went to Florida. I always say she denies it, but I say she was chasing grandkids. So she went down. She went down to Florida when my sister and her husband were starting their family, and then came back to Akron when the baby sister was having her kids, and then I think she said, "You know what? Let's go to Erie."
Yeah.
I always liked Erie.
That's so awesome. So we're getting to the point where we're going to be doing some Vault Vibe Halloween stuff. We already did like a visit to the spirit shop.
Yeah, we went to the spirit store.
Which spirit store?
There's two I know right near each other. You can walk right.
We went to the one inside the mall.
Okay, they're getting like the dollar stores.
They are. They take over. We were talking like in 2020 when we didn't know who won the election, they put like everyone would joke they're going to be like Spirit at the White House
on the White House, right? The Spirit Halloween.
I just saw someone posted something about Spirit taking over somewhere. I mean, it's kind of a running joke, but yeah.
For October, we're gonna
decorate maybe a little bit.
It might be a little preemptive, but I'm just curious. Did you ever have to report on a haunting?
haunting.
Yes.
No, but we did have somebody who went to. We had a sports guy by the name of Jamie Murphy, who
remember Jamie?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a great guy, and he had an interest in that kind of stuff, and he went to the Hotel Conneaut, I believe.
Oh,
okay.
And I could be wrong, and someone feel free to call me on it, but the exact spot. But because there had been reports of the paranormal, I guess is the word. Yeah. And it was very interesting.
Yeah.
It was very
You're not going
to
believe
watch.
this, and I don't tell this to many people, but I guess I'm going to say it now. But I am actually a Ghostbuster, and I do those things.
Really?
But I don't have a camera crew. Would you like to join?
You want to be the reporter on the scene?
I'll get Jackson. No, Jackson would be the.
Well, he would do it because
he could be the camera guy.
He's a good camera guy.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I have the patience.
Oh, really?
You could summon them with your boomy voice.
Yeah, that's it. Right? That's it.
Is that something? The voice. I mean, obviously, you've did you have that right away, or did you work on that?
No, it's always,
just that's what you sound like.
So you're like,
so everyone's like, shh.
Exactly.
When you're outside of the studio.
So when you started radio at 2 years old, you had the same voice.
Pretty much.
My whole life, my parents and other people have gone, shh, we're in the same room. That was always the line. My dad has a better voice than I do.
Really?
Yeah, it's just.
Do you sing?
It's just no.
God, I bet you do in the car.
Nobody wants. Oh yes,
I bet
in
you
the car.
do. Then I bet you you're good.
And I'm awesome in the car when the volume is turned all the way up, and
because
I
you're
can't
just singing
really
along and you don't hear it.
Right? Exactly.
So, what's your favorite song to sing?
What do you like?
Car?
Yeah, what do you like to sing?
Favorite song to sing.
At least your genre, at least.
I'm big into 70s music, like big into 70s music. Even though I became like a teenager and through the 80s,
right? Yeah.
I just never
70s
never clicked with a lot of 80s music.
Yeah.
So the 70s were it. If you look at, I still got a ton of vinyl in the house,
which a lot of people threw out. Now you can't find it anymore. You have the 11 o'clock news, I'm sure, so you have to get there.
What you're quietly trying to tell me is we've had it with you.
Time
Not at all.
No, we're mindful of you. You can stay as long as you want. I mean, we don't care.
Our time is up. This guy is not nearly as interesting as we had hoped.
Not at all. Not at all. That's hilarious.
You're going to tune in. It's just going to be you saying welcome, and then we're going to have a whole other interview.
That's what it'll be. Julie and Nick.
Cut. And then, like today we have so-and-so with their dog or something like that. Right?
That's horrible. That is horrible.
No, you've been a great guest.
So
we really appreciate you coming
one more
in.
thing, though. If you could choose anything in this area that you would say is particular to Erie that you enjoy hobby-wise, like, because we're 20 minutes away from the ski mountains.
Everything.
We're 20 minutes away from the beach. We're, everything's so close. What would you say you would be Erie-esque hobby?
My Erie-esque hobby.
Yeah.
Well, I say this and I'm not good at it. I stink at it, but I'd like to play hockey. Does that count?
Oh, woohoo!
Okay.
I love it.
I stink at it.
What do you do? Do you
it's
do you
just
have
fun.
Do you play like in the beer league stuff?
The beer league.
Yeah?
The beer league stuff. But
What?
when I was a kid, I played a little goalie, and they didn't need a goalie, so now they're stuck watching me try to skate.
That's amazing.
It's punishment
I love it.
for anyone that watches
This is
it.
not what I expected to hear. This is great. I was expecting golf. I was expecting something else.
No, hockey.
No.
So what do you
I'm
play?
equally bad at golf.
Try to do forward or defense, or what do you play?
No, forward.
Forward?
You got to be able to skate really well to play defense.
Backwards, all that stuff.
That's very cool.
I can basically
we
turn around the face
forward and then turn around behind the goal. Come back.
That's basically it. And keep me on one side so that I only have to make a loop on,
no center.
My strong side.
It's just,
right.
That sounds amazing.
Right.
That's very
cool.
cool.
It's fun.
Do you have footage that we can show of you playing?
What?
Who do you think this is already tough enough for me.
You didn't expect to talk about playing hockey now.
anyone
His face is
in the
turning
beer
red.
Yeah.
anyone in the beer league that listens to this is going to be like, oh, this guy better not be saying he's good.
You're trying to keep
Because
that on the DL.
they've been a long time. That genie needs to stay in the bottle, but it's fun, and that would be my Erie thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice.
That would be.
I love that.
Be remiss. My wife used to work at a Muscular Dystrophy Association. We just passed Labor Day recently, and we were talking about the we can swear here. You don't have to swear. The clusterfuck that was the telethon.
The telethon. You know, to this day,
Oh no.
I still miss the telethon.
It was just something. Yeah, it was a tradition.
It gets to Labor Day. And when I was a kid over in Lakewood again, everything comes back to Lakewood.
Yep.
We had muscular dystrophy carnivals.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember those?
We did too.
Where you could send away for the pack from the TV station.
That's what we did too.
Yeah. And we didn't send away. It's funny because we didn't send away for Jet, even though Jet was doing it.
Right.
Jet started doing it 73.
Okay.
And this would have been like 75 or 76.
Right.
But on cable, which was like, wow.
Yeah.
On cable, we got Channel 7 in Buffalo.
Yes.
Okay.
So we sent, and they pushed it hard because they had a kids show like Rocket Ship 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
In the morning, and they pushed it hard, and we got our packet from Channel 7 in Buffalo.
They actually blocked off a street in Lawrence Park where I live. We still live on the same road. Don't ask. But it's literally the police would block it off for us to have our carnival.
Oh, that's
It's just crazy.
That's big time.
Is that crazy?
We had ours. There's a gully between Ardmore and Oakmont.
Yeah, there's a little. Yeah, right.
Yeah. There's a north side and a south side.
Yeah.
And in the south side, we had our carnivals.
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's amazing.
This
is like a blast from the past.
It sure is.
I know.
But you always, with the telethon, you always. I mean, it was something that. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Right. There were some times when it felt like it was going on forever and ever and ever. We talked about
during those later years when Jerry would just like ramble on.
And then Jerry started like the first time Jerry, and we always had a great time. I mean, seeing those people, not to get too sentimental.
Oh yeah.
Seeing those people every year. Yeah. Sometimes it was our only chance to see some of these
people
and to catch up.
Absolutely.
And
Bob Hope and
whatnot.
Like all of it.
And even all the local people too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But I remember it was probably only a couple of years into being the main host with they always made the two anchors be the main hosts and evening anchors. And so I was only a couple of years into it. And it's when Jerry started it used to go to 7 p.m. and Jerry would kind of bail out around 6:15 or 6:20.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Jerry started bailing out at like 5:30.
Yeah.
And we're all looking at each other and going,
where's Jerry?
What in the world are we going to do for 90 minutes? But I'll tell you, it went so fast.
Yeah.
It went so fast.
It's interesting. And it was always, everyone stopped everything to watch it. There was like the
or
best
you knew
TV.
it was at least on. You would, you'd
exactly.
go throughout those 2 days. You could tune in and you'd be like, okay, here it is for a little bit. Yeah.
I would just want to say that's the beauty of being 56 because these are the good memories. These are I know that every time I wake up in the morning, I'm really, really sore for no reason whatsoever except for sleeping.
Right.
But then you'd have talks with people that remember this quality stuff,
Right.
And I know everyone's talking about we used to drink out of a water hose. Okay. I've heard that so many times. I don't want to talk about water
talk
hoses.
about the specific things.
I don't want to talk about water
memories. We're talking about the MDA circuses or whatever.
I want to talk about Rush.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about vinyl, and I want to talk about the telethons. It's just good stuff. This is good
Absolutely.
Stuff.
I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's
fun. It is fun.
And just to bring, it's probably all those memories.
Yep.
End up being very Erie focused for me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They're from the period of time 75 to 79, almost 79 that we were here.
Yeah.
I think it made it made sense to come back. I think it made sense to stay.
But I think people are maybe a little more civil in Erie than in other places.
I think
maybe.
we're a little calmer. We're a little more. I don't want to use the word conservative because that gives the wrong connotation.
Small C conservative.
Yeah. I'm just saying we're just a little bit calmer. It doesn't seem to, just like everyone needs to just grow up kind of attitude. You know what I mean? Like, let's just settle down. I
think there's a resiliency.
Yes.
That a lot of people have.
Yes.
And I just think that a lot of times there are people, I mean, your person doesn't always win the election, whatever election that is.
Right.
But
we're not going to demand.
The world keeps spinning.
We're not going to demand for rights to be wronged and blah, blah, blah.
As a city, I mean, we don't always win as Erie. I mean, that's just kind of our, so it's like, let's pick ourselves back up and do the best we can.
Look what we've got.
We can always do better tomorrow, like Craig Smiley.
Exactly.
Right. I love that. You brought that around. That's good.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we're a classic example too of, we can poke fun at ourselves.
Oh, we always talk about that. Exactly. Yep.
Everybody else mind your own house.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from you.
Back off.
We fully appreciate. We fully appreciate that.
I can say, "Oh, this sucks," but then if you're not from here and you say it, it's like, "Whoa,
no, thank you." Right? Yeah, back off.
Yeah, no, this is. And actually, people that aren't from here tend to be the most positive about Erie, I find. People that move here or whatever, and we don't even see half the goodness of the city sometimes.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. I think, I think there's so much to offer. I mean, and I love Erie. Erie's home. Erie's not where I was born, but Erie's my hometown.
Yeah.
If you ask me,
you've been here for over half your life,
and it's good. And the people here are good. And, and they're not afraid. That's not, when we say they don't get mired in the politics, they're not afraid to debate you.
No.
They're not afraid. They're not afraid to, nobody's shy about saying when they think, well, let's put it this way. A lot of people are not shy about saying we think you're wrong.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
There's nothing wrong with debate because
I grew up my great aunts and uncles and my grandparents, old Italians, they'd argue over the table with donuts and coffee.
Right.
It's no different, because it sounded like they hate each other, but they loved each other.
They do. I can't tell you how many times that we've had those political round tables in my parents' and grandparents' house.
Exactly.
But okay, you sound mad, you get passionate, but at the end of the day, we're still people who love each other.
We always knew that we didn't agree on everything. So what's the difference now?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I was taught to be open. I came from educators. I taught my kids to be open-minded. This is what we do. This is how we roll. So yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm a Sabres fan. My dad's a Columbus Blue Jackets fan. So
Columbus, yeah.
And last time I looked, the Sabres were winning 3-1. So take that, Dad.
Yeah, Dad.
In the all-important preseason game.
How's Dad become a Columbus fan? I mean,
wow.
Dad was actually a Bruins fan for a long, long time. And then it was the Ohio thing. It was once we moved to Akron.
Just once they had an Ohio team, it was like, I'm taking the Ohio team.
I have a feeling that my cousin Johnny's going to be calling about this.
Yeah, right?
He's our call-in guy.
Okay.
He lives in Columbus.
Okay.
He calls in every once in a while.
Well, that's, we also, and everyone in the hockey community obviously feels for Columbus
absolutely.
And what happened,
what
happened there with the Gaudreaus, and obviously that's a bummer. We're not going to end on that.
No,
because that's a bummer.
I'll flip flop it. We can. I'll edit it. So that was in the middle.
That was the very beginning. But what's been cool about that, and it like shows how cool to me hockey is how the entire community from the little kids up to just those of us that sit in the stands with a beer feel so badly for that family.
When I saw I saw a picture or a video of Calgary fans going around the Saddle Dome with their jerseys on, and they were all just there, and it was complete silence, and they were just walking up and paying their respects, putting either like a teddy bear or a jersey or flowers or something like that. It was I teared up. I mean, it was so emotional to see that they're here. And we talked about sports being something that brings people together.
Absolutely.
And I think, when you lose an athlete like that, I think what you see is like, you get sad when you lose family members or friends or things like that. But when you have an athlete, sports are one of those things that we try to get away from the normalcy of life and the bad things.
Right. That's, you think of that. It's like, it's like naively, I think we think of that as some kind of a safe spot or a bubble.
We do.
It's our respite. Yeah. It's our respite.
And unless you're a Browns or Sabres fan, in which,
so you picked the two bad teams from both cities, basically. Is that what you did?
We've had our times. We've had good times.
It's our horrible reality.
Sabres were very respectable for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what? Lindy's back. So
well, and I became a fan when they had the French Connection in the mid 70s, and they were rocking and rolling, and
they had a great team.
They had a great team back in the mid 70s, and then again in the 2000s.
They did. They had a good run there when they had Hasek and everything.
Oh, wow, the dominator.
Yeah, and then even Miller, they won some games in the playoffs. Yeah.
Dominic Hasek is the greatest goalie of all time. Prove me wrong.
He's putting his fist down.
Tune in next week as we have Patrick Waugh on the show. We're moving up.
Patrick Waugh had the Montreal Canadiens and the Colorado Avalanche.
Good teams, right?
Poor Dominic Hasek has got sore shoulders from carrying the entire Sabres organization.
Jeez.
Well, that's
now we've got Michael Pekka on line one.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just throwing out old hockey names.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly. Sorry.
You guys are hilarious. That's when they used to fight on the ice. You remember? I went to a hockey game, or I went to a fight in a hockey game. Broke out.
Yep.
Back in the days, like in the 70s.
Bloody ice.
When they didn't have the net behind the ice and everything, there's pucks going in there.
Oh, my God.
And people wanted to sit back there.
Brutal.
The action.
Well, there's one of the great Sabres moments, is Jim Schoenfeld, defenseman from the 1970s, big kid, who had only been in the league a year or two, and Boston and Buffalo were at each other's throats all the time. They were big rivals back in the day. And they got into a fight, Schoenfeld and somebody else, and I can't remember exactly who, but they fell through the Zamboni doors.
Oh,
the Zamboni doors opened up, and these two just kept the fight going in the tunnel.
What the heck?
Yep.
That's funny.
That's commitment. Police, at those games.
That's
just because of the way that these teams used to hate each other, and it was great. And now they go up and they shake hands.
The refs would just watch it happen. The refs would just watch this happen.
Sunday Night Football the other night, and my son and daughter, why do they go say good job and hug each other? I'm like, because they're all friends now. Yeah. It's not fun anymore. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I think obviously they all know they're bringing home serious cash.
A lot of money too, right?
Nobody really. I don't think anyone really. Let's put it this way:
no one's going to fight for the death right now.
To say nobody, but I think almost nobody wants to ruin anyone's party there.
No.
So I think at this point there's a respect for how much they've had to do to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you for coming on.
That's fine.
We'd love to have you again.
I can yap about
put you down.
Me too.
Yeah. Just ask me.
Seriously, same. Like we could do. This is what we do.
That's why we started the show.
Is my house really worth what the internet says it's worth?
Probably more.
Really? I could do it. Hey, I could do a free CMA for you, and I'll tell you exactly what it's worth.
Okay.
Seriously. We'll do that.
You've probably
because I wouldn't pay what they say it's worth.
You've probably gained about 60% in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a first.
It's insane.
And that was we talk about Erie. Erie used to be maybe 2 or 3% per year.
Yeah, on a good property. Yeah.
And now we're looking at things have gone up a ton
for sure.
I just talked to someone. His house. I was talking to someone earlier. His house went up like 30,000 just in the year since I talked to him.
I know
it's just it's nuts. And it was just like a city out. It wasn't even an expensive house. We
won't talk about how the appraisers are fighting back though.
Hey, we have an appraiser coming on in the next couple weeks here, so that'll be a good.
So I better stop talking.
To, right?
Right now, they're not my favorite.
That was my question. But my question was are these? I guess the market decides what they're worth.
So it's
typically yes.
Are they really worth this, or are we setting ourselves up?
Real estate is one of those fields where
And
it's one of the only fields where someone says, I'm going to pay you $400,000 for this house, but then a third party comes in and says, let's see if it's worth that. Anywhere else, it's already kind of been dictated what's that worth. You go buy a car, they already decided what that car is worth, and no one comes in afterwards after you said, I'll give you $40,000 for this car. And
there are a couple of times I wish someone had come in and told me it's not worth that much, dummy.
You're paying too much. So
that's a very good. That's a very good reference. And
the only thing that I was worried about was, are we creating another bubble? Just a different kind of bubble,
but it's a bubble. Yeah.
From everything I read and I've seen is unfortunately we're not, and I mean fortunately and unfortunately, right? Fortunately that we're not going to have a bubble burst.
Right, people will be able to keep their homes.
But unfortunately, it means that prices are probably just going to continue to go up.
Which brings me to, and I, working with your son and working with a lot of people who are in their
younger age,
mid-20s.
It's frightening.
Who have this frustration that I'm never, ever going to be able to afford this. I feel their pain because I look at, I look at what they say my house is, which is a very modest ranch home. And I'm like, first of all, I would never pay that much for my house. Second of all, I'm like, who could?
Right.
Who could?
He certainly can't with all his school loans and everything else. Like
school loans. I mean, I talk like I have any expertise.
No, you do. I mean, you've been here long enough to know this.
No, you're familiar with it. Yeah, absolutely.
East Side.
East Side. That's the other thing. Isn't it so weird that East Side, West Side? East Side, West Side.
Here you go.
We always talk about
Nick
that.
is going to go on. We had donut tasting test.
Cleveland.
Tell him about
East Side, West Side.
Tell him about the donut tasting test.
We brought in H&K Donuts and we brought in Mighty Fine. We did a test between the two.
East Side Donuts, West Side
stuff
Donuts.
Like that. Some people that are in different parts of town have never even heard of H&K Donuts.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a little tiny shop.
It is
right there on Westlake Road.
Right.
They make amazing donuts.
They do.
Lafferty history. My mom was going to go to work there when we first moved.
Really?
That's what I was going to say. You're right. Yeah, you grew up right near there. Yeah.
When we first moved,
that's awesome.
To Erie, she was going to go to work there, and at the last second, the Boston store called. And the one at the mall, because it was brand new.
It was a new one,
because she had been a buyer for the Boston store in Utica.
Really?
So she had
that's a
history.
Big deal.
Yeah. So she ended up going to work for
that's cool.
the Boston store, but we have that little connection to H&K.
Awesome. That is really cool. That is really cool.
6 degrees of Erie.
6 degrees of H&K.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everyone has a connection.
This
with
means
H&K.
you're an Erie guy for sure.
Yeah,
no
you are. You are through and through. You can pretend you're not. But
if you have, I would never pretend I'm not. If in Erie, everyone has a connection to a donut shop.
They do.
It's
they
true.
do, and everyone has a favorite.
Well, you have to actually get back to the studio.
Yeah, you probably do.
Like, this is incredible.
Again, we're politely getting me out of here.
No,
this was way too long.
Well, if we go much longer, they're gonna have to report from here with you. We have Sean on site.
On site.
Make Jen Mobilia do all the work tonight.
Make Jen do it all night.
Yeah, Jen can do it.
Sean has tonight off.
She doesn't work hard enough. She only works a full-time job at the family business and then a full-time job at Jet.
Yeah.
They have Winefest coming up, so she's probably getting 2 hours of sleep. Yeah.
Oh, alrighty. So we're just gonna. Can you sign us off too?
Oh yeah.
Can I?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Unscripted and
it's Vault Vibes.
Unlocked and unscripted.
Unlocked and unscripted.
Yeah.
That's been Vault Vibes. Unlocked and unscripted. Are you still awake?
People tuned out 30 minutes ago.
No kidding. Like, this guy is not interesting.
This is absolutely not true.
No, they'll watch it. People are excited.
This is exactly what a podcast is.
Do you have a sign off?
I used to, and I don't. I don't anymore.
What was it?
Wait, let's do the sign off real quick. Let's do the sign off. Let's do your sign off.
My sign off.
Yeah, let's do your sign off.
You know what my sign off was?
What?
It was. What did I say?
Sean Lafferty with.
It was so long ago because we used to say Shriver's sign off was, "That's Jet TV Action News." For directed by Ron Nuera.
I remember that.
For Joey, John, and the entire Action News team, I'm Don Shriver. Good night.
Do something like that.
Oh, okay.
Well, what was yours?
I think mine.
Like
do yours.
Kind of that. Or?
I think I just said take it easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
take it easy.
I think I just said take it easy.
Okay. All right. Let's sign us off. Sign
right.
yourself off.
Sign out.
All right. So, Sean, thanks for coming on today. So we'd like you to sign us off for today's episode.
All right. That's all the time we have on this Monday night. Have a great night and take it easy.
Awesome.
Thanks to Ron Nuera.